Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Today I have a very special guest, Miss Tracy Fisher. She is running for the State Board of Education, District 14. How are you doing, ma'am?
I am doing great. I am just so happy to meet you, and I'm thrilled to be here on the
It,
Ellis County Talker tonight.
it is a pleasure to meet you. I wanted to go ahead and have you tell the voters who you are, because you're, I guess, how many districts did you say? 14, or how many counties does 14
There,
cover?
there are 19 counties in District 14,
That's a lot of
and
counties.
there's only 3 that are partial counties, and the rest are full counties.
Well, I want you to go ahead and introduce yourselves to the voters of Ellis County. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the screen and let you go.
All right. Well, thank you. And again, I'm just thrilled to be here on the Ellis County Talker to talk to Ellis County. I'm a native Texan, 5th generation. I've lived in rural Texas, South Texas, Central Texas, San Antonio, and now 35 years here in North Texas. My dad was a Hereford High School math teacher and head football coach, and was recalled to the military on the day I was born. I finished 6th grade in San Antonio, and then when he returned from Vietnam, we went to Wiesbaden and Ramstein, Germany, 2 different places at 2 different times. And then we went to Belgium. I finished high school in Nebraska. My dad was at SAC headquarters. That's where he retired, and went on to the University of Nebraska because I had graduated from high school there and knew some people. My Texas Tech parents weren't very happy. I graduated in business and got out of the Nebraska winters as soon as I could and went to work in supply chain management for Frito-Lay. I worked in 3 different plants for Frito, even met my husband in one of them. And then several of us from Frito went to work for Sky Chefs here in North Texas, where my last job was running the DFW flight kitchen, where we were putting 20,000 meals a day on planes every day. And that was, of course, before 9/11. They don't put that many much food on now. My husband continued with Frito-Lay, and we flipped a coin to see who would stay home with the kids when they went to school. And I've been involved in public education now for 25 years as a parent, a volunteer, a committee member, including district visioning for the past 16 years, dreaming about what our schools could be. I founded the Coppell Gifted Association in 2006 to raise education in our district. High stakes tests, we know, lower the ceiling and raise the floor a little bit. We hosted a summer camp for 13 summers, and all proceeds have gone to sending educators to training on gifted teaching strategies that lift all boats. Those strategies help all children learn. I served on the Texas Association of Gifted and Talented State Board with educators and university professors for 4 years and received an award for my involvement, and our association did as well. When my kids graduated, I had attended local school board meetings for 6 years and decided that my voice was different and might benefit all kids, our parents, educators, and our community. I've been serving on my school board for 10 years. I'm a master trustee, a year-long commitment to learn with 40 other trustees across the state, from school districts with 160 total kids to school districts with 160,000 kids. We toured South Texas, West Texas, Central Texas schools, urban, suburban, and rural communities. I understand some of the struggles of all types of districts. Texas is diverse. We have over 1,100 school districts and 5.4 million students to educate. This job requires knowledge and the understanding of the system to help our kids and teachers. And just to say, and I'm almost done, I'm running for the State Board of Education with a lot of experience, including 7 years worth of legislative work advocating for all kids. I have watched or attended State Board of Education meetings for 2 years. I know the other members and they know me by name. I would hit the ground running. We have work to do to get our kids back on track. And most of us have been hearing about a lot of distractions instead of what we need to do to right this ship and get our kids prepared for life after high school and after COVID. Chapter 7 of our Texas Constitution requires this.
You've been busy.
I,
That's kind of what I'm gathering as you've been busy. That's quite an accomplishment list, ma'am. That is and I applaud you for wanting to serve our children and serve the communities and education, because educating our future is integral. And I appreciate that just as a person, as a dad. Um,
think
so why do you serve on a current school board? Do you serve right now?
I
and
do.
and and so why do you want to serve on the state board?
That is a great question, and I really contemplated this a lot before deciding to do it. When I watched my school board meetings for 6 years, I thought, well, gosh, if I can get on the school board once I made that decision, then I can help make school really great for our kids here in Capel ISD. And we're a high performing school district, but I knew that we needed to do things because kids were still doing they were doing time in school, and that's not what we want for our kids. So what I realized once I got on the board, and after 5 legislative sessions of things being done to us in our school districts, local control taken away, that kind of thing, when I realized that was going on, I also saw that we have a lot of problems, and we need to have some representation on that state board of education in order to make sure that we're doing things right for our kids. And so that's why I decided to throw my hat in the ring and go for it.
Well, I applaud you. I tell every candidate that comes on, I applaud you for wanting to serve and putting yourself in the meat grinder that is politics nowadays. It can be very cruel and ugly arena. So I appreciate you wanting to serve. I So going into the state board of education, now I had to do a little bit of show prep and look at things and kind of look at different agenda minutes and kind of learn a little bit about it. But I still came out a little bit confused. So as a state board of education board member, what would be your primary duties?
Well, most people don't know what the State Board of Education does. I know I didn't when I became a school board member, and so I applaud you for opening up anything to look at what they do. But it basically curriculum standards, all of our Texas essential knowledge and skills. Other states have Common Core. In Texas, we have Texas essential knowledge and skills. And our State Board of Education works with committees that help bring up, do some of that research and make, some expert teachers that get involved, and they get to recommend people to serve on committees to help with the curriculum standards creation. They adopt textbooks that support those TEKS. They also establish graduation rates. They run a nearly $50 billion Texas Permanent School Fund. When Texas Constitution created or made the public education a priority in Texas, they also provided for that education system or insisted that the state provides for that education system. Now, I know as a taxpayer, you may not feel that it's that way, a property taxpayer, but the Texas state is supposed to help provide for those funds for the schools. We also we appoint school board members to military bases. When a DoD school is in Texas on a military base, Randolph comes to mind, and there are others. We appoint school board members to that to help look after those military students, because as a military kid who had, 7 different schools growing up. Of course, I didn't volunteer to be in the military, but I was very proud to serve or watch my dad serve, support my dad and his work. That's my complete honor. And then the last couple things that they do is they approve the educator certification process. There is a different committee that works on educator certifications, but the state board does have veto power over that. And the other thing they have veto power is over the award of new charters. Keep in mind, a charter school or a charter represents not just one school, it represents multiple hundreds of schools. So if a charter is approved, then the commissioner then can completely expand it as much as he would like to. That's the way the system works now anyway. So those are the responsibilities primarily of the State Board of Education. Thanks for asking.
No, that it's good definitely to know these things. Now, you said in it that well, before I go into that, I wanted to ask you an essential because I ask every candidate, you know, kind of those fundamental questions because it doesn't matter what you say. If your fundamentals say something else, you're gonna go with your fundamentals. So, um, what is the role? And now you're in the school board currently, but what is the role of um, of the government in the lives of the people?
Well, in
The
Texas,
proper role. I'm sorry.
right, the proper role is I'm a firm believer in local control, and you can't get any closer to an elected official that lives down the street and goes to the same grocery store as you go to. So I believe the people that are closest to the work know what's best. I believe that with a town mayor. I believe that county leadership. I believe that you know, our city councils. You know, they know about their streets, they know about their trash, they know about what they want for their communities, and so I believe in local control.
Excellent.
And yeah, so
Oh, that's good. Now you said that one of the duties of the state board is to set ouch to set the curriculum. As you know, there's been a big uproar about curriculum, and so there's no way around it. You know, there's a lot of argument throughout the country about CRT, SEL, how they apply, if they relate, if they don't relate. CRT is in colleges, it's not in schools. Yes, it is. It's some kind of variant. There's so many arguments for and against. So I have to ask you, what are your thoughts on that particular issue?
honestly, my honest thought is it's really interesting that we have had public schools here for a long time, and we've had the same leadership for a long time, and now all of a sudden we've got CRT in our schools, and we don't have CRT in our schools. But what I would say is our standards, our TEKS, or our curriculum standards, they don't have CRT. Now, I think some people might define CRT because it's an acronym and they may not know what the words are, or it's easy to change the definition when you use an acronym. I think, you know, some people may think there's racism in our schools, or we're teaching racism, or teaching people to be guilty for the sins of their fathers, or whatever outrageousness there is there. But what I do know is that that is a distraction from getting these kids who are behind because of COVID. It's a distraction from getting. Nobody wants to teach that in our public schools. No one does. Social emotional learning, that is a whole nother thing. The Texas state, the legislature actually has been encouraging the teaching of social emotional learning and basically student skills. Student skills and supports in an environment and their well-being. All students don't have two parents at home, or supportive homes, or basic needs that are even met. And you know, what about our teachers? They also need support. Research says that teachers are the most important influencers of our children's success in school. And I would tell you right now that both our kids and our educators are suffering tremendously because of the social, emotional, mental health crisis that we have right now in our communities, because of COVID and because of the angriness and the distraction and the things that are being said and the bills that are being passed, and people their heads are spinning. Student skills like self-management, being socially aware, having self-efficacy, which is really how they believe they can succeed in achieving academic outcomes, learning strategies, grit, social perspective, taking, to understand that others, to understand and consider other people and the perspectives of their teachers, those kinds of things. Emotion regulation. I mean, when kids come together in a public school, you're teaching them numeracy, literacy, and you're teaching them social skills, because it's the first time they've come together with people that come from different places and different backgrounds and different home lives than they do. And so it's important I mean, that's part of school. Everything I learned when I was in kindergarten. Think about that. I mean, a lot of people listening to this or watching this won't know what that is, but that was the book that talked about you share everything, you play fair, you don't hit other people, you put things back where you found them. I mean, those are basic skills that kids coming together for the first time need to understand and be around. The school climate has to be helpful. They have to feel a sense of safety. They need to understand cultural awareness of others, and they need to be engaged in their learning. They need to value their school. Think about how proud, I know there's so many things to be proud of in Ellis County. I've been studying a little bit of that, and I hope to get a chance to talk about that for a minute. But anyway, teachers, the well-being of our educators, when they have gone through such a stressful last couple of years, kids haven't been in school all the time. And so what's been happening is these kids, it's like you forget not how to behave, but you forget what it's like to be around other people other than your family. And, it's just been a really tough year this year, especially for everybody to come back together and feel safe. And so these teachers need to feel a sense of belonging, and they need to feel well-being, and they need to feel supported. Our teachers are running out the door right now, and that is truly the biggest threat to democracy in our nation, I believe. If we don't have our public schools, we're going to be in a world of hurt. So that's kind of what I'm feeling about the whole CRT and SEL.
Well, I appreciate you addressing it, because it's definitely a hot topic. It's all over the place. So, and there's some in Ellis County on Facebook. It gets it's a brutal battleground for this, and there's always talk about it. So I just wanted you to go ahead and address it, and I appreciate that. So I wanted to move into academics, which is what the schools are supposed to do. So when it comes to academics, as you know, there has been serious learning loss, and the learning loss kind of rates all. I mean, it goes from to every single demographic you can think about, with special education and ESL being down there and in the worst part of that graph. And so, as a special education or a special needs father, of two kids, I wonder about that. Now, with it wasn't the right fit for my daughter, but there are other kids that got to go in, and their special needs kids are behind, and the regular kids are behind. So I wanted you to kind of address, what do you think are some of the things that you can do on the state board to encourage gaining back this knowledge that was lost?
Yeah, that is a $80 million question, right? I mean, this is a big problem, and I like to call it unfinished learning. Sometimes I wonder, we have curriculum standards right now in our state, and one of the big concerns I have is that our teachers cannot even teach a year's worth of their TEKS, their Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills standards. They can't teach a year's worth of TEKS in a year. I mean, that's the way it is normally. We've had so many extra TEKS that have been added over the past years. It's not just what to teach, but how to do it. And that's the job of the professional educator. So we've got these huge amounts of standards. And then now we're saying, okay, now instead of teaching 1 year's worth of standards in a year, which we can't do, now we're making them teach 2.5 years worth of standards in a year. And it is insane. And so, COVID was an opportunity for us to step back and say, okay, what is really important in our learning standards? What are the important things that our kids really need to master? And that's one of the things we did several years ago in our district. We identified the 40% of standards that were the most important in every grade, so that teachers could focus on 40% of mastery of those standards and introduce the others. Of course, we cover all standards, but just to introduce them, not dive deep into that learning. And what that does is allows our kids to dive deep into learning and to have experiences. Because don't we all know, we remember what we experience so much better than what we're told to regurgitate and cough up on a test that really doesn't even matter. It doesn't measure growth, and it certainly doesn't measure learning. So back to, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Go ahead. No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the SPED kid, oh my gosh, one of my sons was also special needs, but he had dyslexia. He wasn't severe special needs, but once that's identified, then you can address it. And right now, what I know is happening is we don't have enough diagnosticians around to help identify the kids that need support. And so now you've got diagnosticians and special ed educators. They're trying to get into those classrooms, just like counselors. They're trying to get in those classrooms and identify these kiddos. And they don't have enough time in the day, because now they're doing 2.5 times the number of kids all at once, because the kids just weren't able to be assessed. And, they're working hard, and so it's just really all across the board. It is a tough time to be in public education right now. And we need to stop this madness and really think about what we're doing to our children.
Yeah, there is a definite problem with learning loss and achievement and academics in general, that's happening, and then having to kind of catch up. And then the other thing with, and could probably go a whole nother hour with, the lack of control that the teacher has in the classroom. It's almost like they've become administrators of the stuff they want them to teach. It's like the art of teaching is lost. My teacher could get really creative when I was growing up, but it was a different time. And so each one of them got to sharpen their craft a little better. But the academic loss is big. And so what are some of the issues you would say you really want to address that you've seen maybe weren't addressed on the SBOE?
Like I said, I really think we need to get the politics out of public ed. And maybe I didn't say that, but there needs not to be any room for politics. And the SBOE right now has a pretty good group of folks that are a little more focused on kids than has necessarily been in the past few years. And so, what I would say is the other role that a state board member has, just like a school board member has, is to advocate at the legislature. And so I know they go from time to time and testify and things like that, but they need to get on fire about our kids so that they can help with, with all this. When you have legislators that don't really understand what's going on in the classroom, or you have some that do, but a lot that don't, and then you have some, I'm sorry, that would just be as happy to continue with distractions and not focus on our kiddos. There's a huge push to privatize public education, just like we did prisons in Texas, and we know how that turned out. We have so many things to be worried about on that end, and so the role of the SBOE when it comes to approving a new charter, that is important. But right now, what we have is our Commissioner of Education, who is in charge of all the charters and can expand without any check and balance from the State Board of Education. So I would advocate for that kind of control over that work, because what's happening now is we have charter management organizations that have come into Texas, because Texas is a gold rush for charters. Now I know Ellis County doesn't have a lot of charters. There's a couple in Waxahachie, and there's one in Red Oak. But other than that, Ellis County thankfully hasn't seen what charters are doing to our urban, and now what they're doing to our suburban schools, like my school in Capel. And so the charter management companies, they just approved last summer a new charter called Rocket Ship coming in from California. They don't have a good track record. So now we've got California, Arizona, Virginia, Florida, all of them are now taking our Texas taxpayer dollars. And those charter schools, most charter schools, those kinds of charter schools that are expanded quickly, they don't pay their educators. In fact, they get away with, they have minimum standards. They can hire high school graduates to teach. And so what they have is a high mobility in their classrooms. So they put a lot less money into their classrooms than public schools do. They spend more of their money on central office. They spend more of their money on advertising. I've seen lots of advertising. You might not have seen it in Ellis County, but during the Super Bowl, we sure saw it in the Metroplex for charters that are coming into Texas. Charters that spend their money on Lear jets and professional athletic suites, so that the people they want to pay for and support can have a good time, I guess. Yeah. So,
well, that said, and I'm sorry to interrupt if I am. That said, with that, some parents, there's a reason why charters are doing what they're doing and why they're succeeding in some places and not others. And the reason being is that the parents feel that the public education is failing them and failing their children. One of the ways that affects us, and it's affecting both school districts in this local area, well, all of them, is the lack of the loss of teachers. The teachers that are leaving the field, and you had mentioned it earlier, the teachers who are leaving, the teacher exodus, unable to get subs. What can the SBOE do? And obviously I know that it's a board and it's not just Tracy Fisher if you were elected, but what can the SBOE do to promote the growth and hiring of teachers?
Great. One of those things that the SBOE has responsibility for is the educator certification. There are things about our educator certification that are a little bit, hard to overcome. It costs money to get certified. If you're a new teacher, you may not have that money. There are ways to make that process easier. And so I see the state board having a role there. Higher ed also has a role. And I know that's not state board, but again, it's advocacy. We have great teacher colleges across Texas, Baylor, TWU, UNT, SMU. Mary Hardin Simmons, we've got so many great, and I don't mean to miss anybody, but we have so many great places that produce great teachers. The issue is right now, because of COVID, we've got 2.5 years of nobody's going into the teaching profession, right? It's slowed down. So what we can advocate in higher ed is to do what Mississippi has done. They basically, and they take a lot of our Texas kids, they bring them to Mississippi, and then they pay for all their tuition to go to Ole Miss or one of their state schools, and then they have to commit to a 5-year teaching gig in Mississippi, and then we'll get them back a lot of times. But if Texas did more of that, that would really help too. So the state board needs to advocate. Keep in mind, there's only 15 state board members. There are 31 senators. It's half the number of senators, and the Senate is pretty small. So those state board members should be advocating for these teachers and for the for education and for kids.
Well, it definitely has to. There's something that has to give, definitely, because that not having teachers in the classroom is not going to work.
Mm.
Um, so what do you feel about the technology that, that has been used as far as, the kids are being given tablets and they're giving, and I know that, technology is where we're moving,
Right.
but these schools using that kind of technology, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a balancing act. As you said so wisely, we're moving into. I mean, well, we've been in a technological world for a long time. There's not one person that doesn't work with technology in their profession. Um, even car manufacturer. I mean, mechanics. I mean, they're working with computer chip. They're working with computers all the time, and that's the world we've got to prepare these kids for. So, what I would say, our district has. We were one-to-one devices before COVID, and we had locked down we had safety safeguards. These kids, a kid can get on their cell phone and access more of the internet than they can on our iPads at school. At least that's the way we set it up. I mean, that iPhone is up to the parent. The device is also an instructional material is in that device, as well as other kinds of ways to help kids. What's nice about technology is when they work on a math app, it will respond to their abilities. So every kid can grow, right? It's not everybody having the worksheet. It's the same worksheet. Everybody's doing that math and everybody's mastering that, whatever. It is, each kid is individually getting what they need, and they're not having to sit and wait. They are getting what they need. But that being said, we don't need little preschoolers. That's what broke my heart during COVID, is seeing the preschoolers on iPads, seeing kindergartners. My grandson was in kindergarten here during COVID. That was, I could, I mean,
Awful.
it was awful. It was awful. They need to be around other children. And we all learn that. And so, looking forward, I know the commissioners they've got the governor appointed a virtual group to look at virtual education. That's another money-making opportunity for somebody out there. And, there's only one district or one place in Texas where they really get that virtual learning right. And it's a high school in Grapevine, Colleyville. It's I University Prep. And they only accept, I don't remember what the number is now, but they have a real school, they have a real principal, and they focus on those kids all the time. And a lot of those kids are kids that need that kind of learning because they're athletic, they're doing they're doing ice hockey, or they're doing gymnastics, or there's some fabulous actor and they go to LA or whatever they do. But they provide for kids all over the state, but there's a huge waiting list, but they do a great job. But other than that, I like blended learning. I think that's positive, where you can go into a lab and work on enriching the education that you're getting. I mean, I just think technology allows us to enrich. It also allows us to connect with people from other parts of the world. And we've all seen YouTube, when you've had different folks from different places connecting. You can connect with famous authors. You can connect with other students that are in other countries working on the same things you are, and then let them share and talk. It flattens the world. It's good.
Yeah, okay, I like that saying. It flattens the world. Yeah, yeah. I've had the joys of seeing a lot of this world, and it does flatten it when you've seen a lot of it. So before I close this out and let you talk to the voters directly, I wanted to ask you about CTE, because you know what, I think that we did a disservice in the education system, and this is me editorializing, and I'm sorry, but we did a disservice as a tradesman. I think we did a disservice to the kids where we pushed just college.
Mm-hmm.
And now, we have like $1.2 trillion in student loan debt or something like that. It's a lot. Mm-hmm. And so with all that, comes CTE, and there's the graying of the trades is what they call it. A lot of the baby boom generation is out, and old guys like me are starting to get ready to get out soon, and I'm not seeing any youngsters coming up, and they're very good jobs that provide very good livings. And so the schools are starting to go to that, like MISD has the mile, and they're doing big things with that. As a state board of education, I mean, do you support those programs, first of all? And as a state board of education board member, if you're elected, what will you do to kind of push that?
Yeah, I totally support that. I also am a person that grew up in a time where we had all kinds of, shop and other things that you could learn. I can't say that I was very good at any of those things really, but I enjoyed learning different things and working with your hands. One of my sons does great things with his hands. The other one, forget it. I mean, kids are just different, even from the
Mhm.
same family, and it should be honored and respected choices. And there is nothing. I mean, as you said, the tradesmen are aging out. I mean, they're retiring, and we won't have plumbers, and we won't have. I mean, you saw what happened during the polar ice freeze when we couldn't get plumbers to our homes to fix things, or even all the other problems that we had. But I definitely would support that. That kind of learning. Think about it. I mean, there are so many exciting things that are going on, and you don't need. I mean, I know of so many stories of kids that are yanked out of college because they have enough learning and they are zipped somewhere to work for somebody. Because I'm not saying that college doesn't teach kids what they need to know, and there's a lot of great professional work. I enjoyed college, but my college for me, I thought, you know what? This just showed I had the ability to learn. But you can show that in anything you do in life, right? You should always
Yes,
be
ma'am.
learning and unlearning and relearning, and that's what our kids need to know is how to learn. And those experiences are the ones they remember. And I just think it's fabulous to have all these different certifications that they can get. I think the more the merrier. I think kids need to explore that. I think it needs not to be in their, tied up with a GPA. So everybody's going for a rat race GPA so they can, I don't know what they want to do with that, but it's stressing kids out. Kids need to back off and have an opportunity to learn. I don't know. I'm a firm believer in all of those things. So.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of it. I've had a good life with it, and I encourage others. And it can be highly technical. I mean,
Oh,
the trades can be. My field has gone from turning wrenches to you know uh, graphic design and computer points and very technical stuff that my field has gone into HVAC. And
nice.
so, but it's been very rewarding, and so I would love for the kids that kind of push to, hey, you don't have to
Mm-mm.
go to UT, and nothing wrong with UT, but you don't have
Mm,
to go to UT and do that. You can do this and you're going to be fine.
right.
So I'm going to go ahead and give you the mic. I've talked enough, and I want to go ahead and give you a chance to talk to the voters of Ellis County, and so when they watch this video, they can see what you got to say.
Okay, great. I just appreciate again the opportunity to spend here with you, and I hear what you're saying. I just feel like a kindred spirit there. I get it, and it must be that military connection. Thank you for your service. There is
Appreciate that.
nothing more honorable than serving in our military.
Thank
Um,
you.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm one of those that at a parade will actually stand for the flag when it goes by because that's
That
important.
that would be me. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So I've learned a little bit about Ellis County, and so here are a few things that I've learned. I know that many people watching this are proud of the Midlothian Panthers and the Jaguars. I know that others are excited to cheer at the 287th showdown between Ennis and Waxahachie, and there are more that are always cheering for the true maroon of Red Oak. I have appreciated seeing superintendents Richie Bowling and Kevin Nowak at many advocacy events focused on public education and retired teachers, along with many other great superintendents in Ellis County. The County Ag Show was very impressive. I didn't get to go, but I saw wonderful pictures. We don't have FFA in Coppell, but I do know what a commitment that is for our kids. I spent many a summer with my grandparents where they raised cattle and onions. Talk about life skills. the Texas State College and the amazing partnerships that Marcus has forged with different local communities, as we talked about CTE, et cetera, all benefiting students in trades, and the result is a gainful employment, or they don't get paid. And that's a result we can all appreciate for students. 2 new hospitals in Ellis County offering wonderful opportunities for the future first responders. And I'm excited to see the ROTC opportunities expanding, giving students many choices that allow them to see more than a 4-year degree, as we were just talking about, truly pursuing their heart's passion. And I know for a fact junior ROTC is about growing leaders. There's so many great things going on in our public schools in Ellis County. And I just, I don't know how much more that I could have prepared to serve you in this role. I'm approachable, I'm responsive, I'm committed, I'm creative, and I care about getting this work right for all of our kids. I will not pretend to be an educator, nor will I accept campaign support from anyone I would be beholden to in this seat. And that's a conflict of interest as far as I'm concerned. My website is tracyfisher4texas.com. I'm on social media. My phone number, I'm going to give you my phone number. It's 940-222-2152, 940-222-2152. I would love to hear your stories and what public education means to you. Texting works just as well. Look, I know I ran in a Republican majority district. Let's make public education about kids and not politics. When this election is over, let's be positioned to help our kids soar. 80% of Texans support their local public schools across party lines. I'm the public education friendly candidate in this race as evaluated by Texans for Public Education, and it's nearly 35,000 parent, educator, and advocate membership. I'm a fiscal conservative, have managed a huge school budget for 10 years. I have family values. We ate dinner together every night as a family and as much as possible when high school started. Church is important to us. I taught Sunday school, K-7, Vacation Bible School, attended Bible studies, church camps. I served as a trustee for my church and ran the prayer campaign to fund a beautiful prayer garden honoring one of our amazing pastors. Please remember, this position is not about an agenda. It's a role. And the person representing you in this role needs to understand how the Texas public education system works to ensure we are preparing our children to be competitive in an ever-changing world. I look forward to representing you, your kids, educators, communities, and all of Ellis County in District 24 or in District 14, 2014. I don't know where that came from. Please reach out to me with any questions and suggestions. Thank you again for this opportunity. It is truly a privilege. And again, reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. And so that's the kind of representative I would be for you. Thank you.
Thank you for making yourself available again. Well, there you have it, Ellis County. I've had both candidates that are running on, and you get to watch them, and they both have very good and different ideas on how to move education forward in Texas. So you have choices. Make sure you take a look at both interviews, and make sure you get out your butt out there and vote next week. I believe early voting starts, and you stay informed and make an informed decision. Again, I thank you again for coming on the Ellis Talker, and you take care, ma'am, and good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate you very much.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.